Teacher's attempt to expose unsolvable equation reveals amazing math genius of black student. Mr. Reynolds stood before his class with fire in his eyes. The air crackled with tension as he unveiled this year's grand challenge, a daunting equation he dubbed unsolvable. The murmurs swelled, the indifference thick enough to slice through. But he believed, with every fiber of his being, this was their moment. This could ignite something extraordinary in the hearts of his disheartened students. In the back row, Jamal sat, his face a mask of determination. 17, smart, and burdened with heavy responsibilities, he carried the weight of his family's struggles on his shoulders. His mother worked double shifts, and his younger siblings looked to him for guidance. In a community marked by the sharp contrast of manicured lawns and crumbling playgrounds, Jamal often felt like he was more than just a student. He was a provider, a protector. Yet, despite his challenges, Jamal's fire flickered quietly. Reynolds knew some students pushed through life feeling trapped by their realities, but he was tired of letting indifference win. He wanted them to face the complexity of the equation, to feel it at their cores. "This is your chance," he urged, watching their faces. At first, silence engulfed his words. But then something unexpected sparked within Jamal. His insatiable hunger to prove himself, to break free from his background, flared into action. He grabbed a notebook and began scribbling frantically, the numbers dancing off the page as his mind whirred. Before long, Jamal was lost in the beauty of math, navigating the intricacies that had held his classmates back. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days crept closer to finals, a study group formed around Jamal, fueled by laughter and stubborn determination. The classroom, once heavy with silence, buzzed with energy. They rallied, lifting each other's spirits as they clawed toward the unknown. Jamal's brilliance shone bright, but now it illuminated voices that had felt unheard. Yet, with every step forward, Mr. Reynolds wrestled with his own biases. Was he really seeing them, or merely what he thought they should be? As Jamal led the charge, questions of meritocracy hung thick in the air. The atmosphere crackled, transcending math and exploring the layered struggles they faced as a community. Finally, the moment of climax arrived. Jamal unveiled his stunning solution, and the room erupted in disbelief and awe. It was a vivid shift, a metamorphosis, not just for Jamal but for everyone. They had conquered the equation, yet a lingering thought remained. This victory felt monumental, but would it alter the inherent inequalities around them? As the bell rang, signaling the end of class, Jamal's heart raced with possibilities. Did recognition await him, or would the struggles loom again just outside the school's doors? The camaraderie he found felt like a lifeline, but could it be enough to shape a new path? This was only the beginning, and as he glanced around, he wondered if the breakthrough would lead to more than just fleeting glory. The days drifted by, but the exhilaration of that revelation clung tightly to Jamal's heart. Every time he walked past his classmates, there was a brightness in their eyes, a spark of something he had ignited. It felt like they were all carrying a piece of that victory as they moved through the halls. Reynolds had been relentless. He challenged them more than ever, not just about math, but about their futures. "Keep pushing against the walls that confine you," he kept saying. Jamal could feel those walls quivering, just waiting for someone to break through. As Jamal sat at the kitchen table one evening, helping his little sister with her homework, fatigue washed over him. His mother hadn't returned from her shift, and the familiar weight of responsibility settled back onto his shoulders. The excitement of the classroom felt far away, and yet, it flickered like a candle in the dark corners of his mind. That night, he dreamed of the equation again. Numbers whirling around, forming patterns that felt like music. He could almost hear the rhythm. Waking up with a jolt, he grabbed his notebook, scribbling notes in the dim early morning light. There was something about the equation that felt unfinished, just like his journey. The next day at school, Jamal decided to share his observations. "What if we look at it this way?" he proposed during study group. His peers listened, captivated by the possibilities he painted. It was a metamorphosis in real time, the way they responded to each other. No longer were they just classmates, they were a group, a family, intertwined by struggles and triumphs. Yet, for every cheer and laugh that filled the air, a shadow loomed behind Jamal's own thoughts. He often wondered if they'd forget him once the school year ended. High school had its own rhythm, and he feared the beat would continue without him. Then came the day of the presentation. The gym was packed, parents and teachers gathering to witness the students showcase their achievements. Jamal stood backstage, nerves tingling in his fingers as he recited his lines over and over in his head. Mr. Reynolds had prepared him well, but the intimidation of the spotlight loomed heavy. One by one, students stepped up, their projects brightening the room with innovation and brilliance. Jamal could feel the whispers of doubt creeping back. Soon, it would be his turn, and what if nobody truly saw him? Would their eyes glaze over? When finally he took the stage, his heart raced. Gazing into the audience, he spotted familiar faces: his classmates, his siblings, even his mother in the back, looking proud despite her exhaustion. The fear momentarily faded, replaced by warmth tinging his cheeks. "Today," he said, voice steadying, "I'm not just sharing an answer. I'm sharing hope. Hope for all of us." And as he unraveled his thoughts, the fear transformed into strength. As applause erupted, Jamal's heart soared. It wasn't just about math anymore, it was about redefining where he came from. But as he soaked in the moment, he couldn't shake the feeling that this triumphant scene was only a chapter of fleeting victory amidst many battles yet to come. When he stepped off the stage, the reality struck him. How would the world embrace him after this? Would they see more than his background? The excitement of the event lingered, but reality crashed back quick. Jamal had solved one equation, but so many more awaited beyond the school's doors. Did he have what it took to navigate them all? The questions hung in the air, heavy and persistent. The next morning, the sun streamed through Jamal's bedroom window, casting warm stripes of light across his bed. He blinked awake, feeling a mix of exhaustion and excitement. The presentation was over, but its echoes reverberated in his newfound confidence. Yet, as he prepared for school, shadows still lingered on the edges of his mind. What if today was the day everything changed? The thought filled him with hope and anxiety. Arriving at school, he felt the buzz of energy in the hallway, but today was different. Instead of the usual chatter, there was a current of murmurs, punctuated by laughter and whispers that seemed to carry his name. As he passed groups of students, he caught snippets of conversations. "Did you see Jamal? That was incredible." They were talking about him, and every word sent jolts of warmth through his chest. But then, a voice cut through the elation like a knife. "What does he think? Just because he gave one good speech, he is special now." The sentiment belonged to Lewis, a usually unnoticed classmate who never missed a moment to shoot down anyone who dared to rise. Jamal's heart sank. It was a reminder that acceptance was often shallow, another wall waiting to confine him. In Mr. Reynolds' class, Jamal took a seat surrounded by his peers, still riding high from the previous day. They were buzzing, throwing ideas around like confetti, pointing out connections in the math problems they had struggled with before. Jamal felt the energy shift and grow stronger with each word exchanged. Somehow this felt like a collective awakening, a group of minds breaking free from chains. "Jamal, how did you come up with that angle?" asked Kayla, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "It just clicked," he replied, shrugging off the praise as if it were a weight he hadn't asked to carry. "You know, like Mr. Reynolds says, it's all about pushing against the walls." Just then, the classroom door swung open. Ms. Matthews, the principal, stood there looking serious. "I need to speak with Jamal, please," she said, scanning the room. His heart dropped. Anxiety twisted in his stomach as he stood up. What could this possibly be about? Had he crossed some invisible line? As he followed her outside, Jamal's palms grew clammy, and his breath quickened. "Jamal, I wanted to commend you on your presentation," she said, her expression softening. "But there's something more. Your speech ignited discussions in our district about the lack of resources for students like you. We want to explore ways we can support young talents in our schools." Hope fluttered in Jamal's chest. "Really?" He stammered, barely able to comprehend the words. "Yes. We're hosting a forum next week, and we would like you to share your experience and insights there," she continued. His mind raced. This was bigger than he ever imagined. This could be a chance to break down those walls he felt so often. But doubt crept in as swiftly as the excitement had arrived. What if he flopped? What if he couldn't voice what everyone else needed to hear? "Jamal, you speak for so many," she said, noticing his hesitation. "You're already a leader." Everything inside him shifted. They wanted to listen to care. His journey wasn't just his anymore, it could be much more. As he returned to class, a lingering question danced in the back of his mind. Could he really share the weight of their struggles? He felt the eyes of his classmates on him, and their encouragement washed over him like a wave. But as anticipation swirled within him, he couldn't shake one last thought. What if sharing his truth brought even greater challenges? Would he find the strength to tackle them, to stand tall not just for himself, but for everyone? And that's when Jamal knew something monumental was on the horizon, a chance to transform fear into a voice that echoed beyond the classroom. What would it take to break free and truly be heard? The bell rang, jolting Jamal out of his thoughts. The thrumming of his heart matched the chaotic rhythms of students gathering their things, ready to rush into the next class. He glanced around, the weight of his impending responsibilities heavy on his shoulders. He didn't just feel the energy buzzing in the room anymore, he felt the pressure. After the final period, he found himself sitting alone on a bench outside, staring at the ground and swirling thoughts in his mind. His phone vibrated beside him. It was a message from Kayla. "Hey. Are you going to the library after school? I want to brainstorm ideas for the forum." The thought of facing that forum was daunting. He typed a quick response, "Sure, I'll be there." As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Jamal walked into the library. The smell of old books and polished wood wrapped around him, bringing a calming nostalgia. It was a sanctuary, always had been. Kayla was already there, seated at a table surrounded by scattered papers and books. "There you are. I was starting to wonder if you'd chicken out." She laughed, but the concern in her eyes was clear. "I don't really know what to say," Jamal admitted, plopping down in the seat across from her. "What if I freeze? Or worse, say something stupid? You won tea. Just remember why you're doing this. You're not just sharing your story, you're representing so many others who feel the same way. That's powerful." Her enthusiasm was contagious, but doubt still nagged at him. "Yeah, but what if they don't want to hear it? What if it's not enough?" Kayla leaned forward, her voice serious. "You've got to believe it is enough. Your voice matters." "I wish I could say something like that in front of people. I'd burn up with fear." Jamal couldn't help but crack a smile. "Yeah, I guess you're right. Sort of. Let us write some points down, okay? Your speech should come from your heart." They dove into brainstorming, each idea triggering stories and laughter. Jamal recounted moments of struggle and triumph, pouring out words that transformed into visual images, moments of teamwork in class, the sense of isolation that crept in even while surrounded by peers, and how fear often held him back. As they worked, Jamal felt his confidence building. The more he spoke, the clearer it became, his story wasn't just his. It was a collective experience, echoes from classmates who felt unseen or unheard. "Okay, let us format it," Kayla said, grabbing paper and pen. Your introduction should hook them, make them engage with your journey right from the start. Jamal nodded, excitement bubbling within him. They collaborated, words flowing freely, ideas bouncing back and forth. The hours. It didn't feel like hours. Time slipped away, and gradually the library quieted down to just them, but even as he became more energized, a part of Jamal hung back, fearful of the looming presentation. What happens if I lay everything on the line and it doesn't go as planned? He asked, staring at the notes. Kayla paused, letting the question hang in the air. Then you know you tried, and that's what really matters. It takes guts to put yourself out there. Just remember, you're not alone in this. You're standing with everyone who needs a voice. Jamal took a deep breath, filled with a new spark of determination. Maybe this was what breaking down walls looked like, daring to connect, to share, to stand tall. He felt the shift in him. As they gathered their things to leave, thoughts spun through his mind. Could he be that voice for others? It felt monumental, yet terrifying. The next week loomed large in his mind, and as he walked home, there was a new question that flashed across his thoughts. What would happen if he stepped into the spotlight and let his voice be heard for the first time? Would the world finally see? The air was thick with anticipation as Jamal stepped into the school auditorium the following week. Rows of chairs filled with familiar faces seemed to bore into him. Some students were chatting nonchalantly, while others scrolled through their phones, but when Jamal walked in, a wave of silence washed over the room. It was like being thrust into a spotlight he hadn't asked for. Nerves twisted in his stomach, but he reminded himself of Kayla's words, "You're not alone." As he found a seat, he could feel the hum of conversations buzzing around him, yet they felt distant, like he was observing everything from the outside. His heart pounded louder with every tick of the clock on the wall. His mind wandered back to that brainstorming session, the laughter and ideas spilling forth like a spring after a long winter. He had felt so alive, but now doubt came creeping in like shadows during dusk. What if he couldn't capture that energy? What if the words he practiced slipped away, leaving him standing there silent and exposed? The hostess' voice broke through his thoughts, announcing the beginning of the forum. A mix of students and teachers took the stage, each sharing their stories, pouring a piece of themselves into the space. Jamal watched, captivated but also reminded of the weight of vulnerability. Each narrative was a thread weaving them closer together, sparking something in the audience, a collective heartbeat. "Next, we have Jamal," the host said, turning toward him with a warm smile. The spotlight shifted, and suddenly, all eyes were on him. The room felt larger, the air heavier. He swallowed hard, rising to his feet. His palms were clammy as he approached the microphone. Each step felt monumental, his heart racing. The cheers from Kayla and a couple of friends anchored him, grounding him even when the moment felt surreal. "Hey everyone," he started, his voice wavering at first. "I'm Jamal." The simple introduction pulled a tight smile across his face. He glanced down at his notes, then back at the sea of attentive faces. "I want to share something that's always been difficult for me." As he spoke, Jamal felt the words flowing out like water breaking through a dam. He opened up about his struggles, how isolating it felt to grapple with his identity and the challenges he faced in school. Each confession added a layer of authenticity that he hadn't anticipated would resonate deeply. That he shared his moment of triumph the day he stood up for a classmate who was being bullied. The auditorium hung onto each word. It was more than a story, it was a movement. Voices in the audience began to echo his sentiments, nodding in connection, and he realized they were listening. Really listening. As he reached the climax of his tale, he saw Kayla's encouraging smile and the approval from his peers. His voice grew stronger. "We can't be afraid to share our stories. They have power. Together, we can change perspectives and inspire one another." Applause erupted before he could finish, and Jamal's heart swelled. For the first time, the anxiety simmered away, replaced by a thrill of connection. This wasn't just his voice, it was the voice of everyone who felt unheard, unseen. When he stepped down from the stage, the warmth of their reception washed over him. Kayla hugged him tightly. See? You were incredible. But as the adrenaline faded, nerves returned with a question sharper than before. What if his voice continued to echo long after this moment? What if it became a rallying call for change? He wondered then, could they really create something together, break down walls even further? Something inside told him that this was only the beginning. And as the voices of his peers hardened into a roar of encouragement behind him, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the brink of something even bigger. Jamal floated on a cloud of exhilaration, but as he stepped off the stage and into the bustling hallways of his school, reality began to creep back in. High fives from classmates felt electric, and their praise wrapped around him like a warm blanket. Yet lurking just beneath the surface were those nagging doubts. Could one story truly inspire change? As he walked through the halls, whispers lingered in the air. Jamal caught snippets of conversations, laughter breaking through the noise. Did you see Jamal? He was epic. One student remarked. The word set off a ripple of warmth in his chest, yet a quiet voice still murmured in his ear, asking if he could sustain this momentum. Later that week, a teacher announced a project that made Jamal's heart sink. The math teacher, Mr. Sanders, was notorious for hard equations that baffled even the brightest students. "We're tackling the most complex formula in algebra," Mr. Sanders proclaimed with a glint in his eye. "It's designed to be unsolvable. I challenge each of you to find an answer." The collective groan from the class was audible. Jamal typically enjoyed math, but the idea of confronting an unsolvable problem felt daunting. He wondered if this was a test of something deeper, a challenge to face his fears once again, like the speech he delivered. "Don't think of it as daunting," Mr. Sanders encouraged, noticing the expressions of defeat. "Think of it as a chance to push your limits. Greatness doesn't come from simple solutions." Jamal turned to Kayla, sitting beside him, an anxious expression on her face. "What if we can't do it? What if it's really unsolvable?" Kayla squeezed his hand, her confidence steady. "Remember how you spoke at the forum? You didn't let fear stop you then. This is just another story waiting to be told." Days turned into nights as students grappled with the formula. Jamal felt the pressure rising, each equation seeming to mock him. But during study sessions, he couldn't shake the notion that this was a turning point. Weeks ago, he had been too scared to even share a small part of his story. Now, he was debating patterns and principles, not only with Kayla but with old classmates he hadn't spoken to before. One evening, after an exhausting study session at Kayla's house, he found himself staring at the equation, trying to find logic in the chaos. Instead, what surfaced were memories of his speech and the power of shared experiences. "Maybe I can approach this like I did up there," he thought. "Every missed step is just part of the story." The next day, he walked into the classroom more determined than ever. With fresh ideas bubbling in his mind, he shared his breakthrough with his peers. Laughter arose as they found joy in the challenge, each idea sparking another. As the deadline approached, Jamal felt something shift. He wasn't just answering a math problem, he was contributing to something bigger. They were unraveling intricacies together. They were forming bonds that transcended formulas and equations. When the day finally arrived to present their findings, Jamal's heart raced. The pressure felt familiar, but as he stood in front of the class, nervous laughter erupted around him. This was a new kind of stage, and he smiled, drawing strength from the lessons he had learned in the auditorium. "Today, we aim to expose possibilities," he declared. But just as he began to share their approach, a knock at the door interrupted. The principal stepped in, face serious. "We have a surprise visitor," he announced, looking to each student curiously. Jamal felt a jolt of tension. Who could it be? The excitement in the room shifted to anxious curiosity, leaving everyone hanging, wondering if this surprise could change everything they'd worked for. The murmurs fell silent, and every pair of eyes zeroed in on the principal. Jamal's heart thudded in his chest. Who was this visitor, and what weight did they carry? Expectations buzzed in the air like static electricity. Moments later, the door swung wide, and in stepped a woman in a sharp blazer. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her confidence radiated throughout the room. She looked around, scanning the eager faces, then fixed her gaze on Jamal. An unmistakable recognition flickered in her eyes. "Hello, students. My name is Dr. Williams," she announced, the warmth in her voice captivating them. "I'm an educator and a mathematician, and I'm thrilled to be here with you all." A ripple of admiration swept through the class. She was someone they had heard of, someone who had made significant contributions to math education. Jamal stood frozen, the unexpected spotlight amplifying his nerves. Had she come to see him? The surprise visitor wasn't just a stranger, she was someone who was known for her beliefs in challenging the impossible. A voice in him clamored to reach out, to ask questions, but fear clamped down hard. "I've journeyed across the country, looking for bright minds engaged in tough math challenges," Dr. Williams continued, her presence offering an unexpected comfort. "Today, I want to hear your ideas, your thoughts on Mr. Sanders' unsolvable equation. Can you all share what you've discovered?" The students naturally erupted, exuding the enthusiasm that only came when discussing things they were passionate about. One by one, hands shot up, and the discussion ignited, filled with excitement and energy. Jamal watched as Kayla shared their approach, illustrating concepts that once seemed impenetrable. Then, unexpectedly, the room came to a hush as Dr. Williams pointed at Jamal. "And you," she called. "Jamal, you've been leading this discussion, haven't you? What's your perspective?" All eyes fell on him. The room shrank and expanded at the same time. Jamal's heart raced, a rush of adrenaline pulsing through him. Gripping the edges of the podium, he cleared his throat. We've focused on the idea that problems can be broken down into smaller parts. It's about finding patterns, even when things seem impossible." Dr. Williams nodded appreciatively. "That's an excellent point. Complexity often masks simplicity." Continued. Jamal's confidence surged, words flowing like a river as he spoke about teamwork, the thrill of unraveling the chaotic nature of their equation, and how math had transformed from a daunting topic into a shared adventure. The classroom filled with bursts of laughter and soft applause as he relayed their revelations. As he spoke, he couldn't help but glance at Kayla. Her encouragement showed in her beam of pride, and it made him want to push further. After the presentation, Dr. Williams approached him, her smile genuine. "I'm impressed, Jamal. You have a gift for explaining math in a way that feels accessible. How would you feel about collaborating on a project I'm working on?" His breath caught in his chest. The weight of her words dripped with possibility, hinting at a new beginning that could pull him into realms he had only dreamed of. "I'd love to." He stammered out, excitement and disbelief colliding within him. As the class wrapped up, Jamal felt an inner shift, burdens lifting as he stepped forward with a bold vision. The moment was electric, and he realized he wasn't just solving math problems, he was discovering a path to make a difference, fueled by hope. But as class ended, and he gathered his things, a flicker of doubt reignited. Could he really keep up with Dr. Williams' expectations? The gravity of this opportunity settled in, and he wondered about the journey ahead. Would he rise to the occasion, or would he find himself overwhelmed by the very challenges he had admired from afar? As Jamal stepped into the bustling hallway, the excitement from class still hummed in his chest. He couldn't help but replay the moments in his mind, Dr. Williams smiling at him, the way his classmates had cheered him on. But with each step, he felt the weight of expectation looming over him. Kayla caught up with him, her bright eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "You were amazing up there. I knew you could do it." There was genuine admiration in her voice, and it warmed Jamal amidst the swirling doubt. "Thanks," he replied, though a knot twisted in his stomach. "But do you think I can really work with Dr. Williams? This project sounds huge, like a real game-changer." Kayla tilted her head, her expression softening. "Jamal, you have a unique way of thinking about math. You bring us together to tackle hard stuff. That's what a good leader does." Her words floated around him like sunlight, but the shadows of doubt crept back in. What if I mess it up? What if I can't keep up? Kayla placed a hand on his arm, grounding him. You won T. You've already proven yourself. Focus on what you love about math. That passion is why she picked you. He nodded, appreciating her support. A few moments later, they reached the exit, where students flowed like a river into the bright afternoon. Jamal was suddenly hit with the realization that his life could change. What if this project led him somewhere he had never imagined? That evening, as he sat on his bedroom floor, books scattered around him, Jamal tried to dream up ideas for the collaboration. Pages filled with scribbles soon turned into formulas circling around his mind, each representing the hopes he had for this project. But the moment he envisioned presenting his ideas to Dr. Williams, the weight of pressure crashed down again. Flashes of failure invaded his thoughts, small cracks that threatened to break the confident image he had painted during class. Could he really help create something that could potentially change the way math was perceived? He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Focus on what you can control, he muttered to himself. Start small. That night, Jamal fell asleep with a flickering light of determination in his heart, but with dreams crowded by worries. He wasn't sure where all of this would lead, but he knew he had to try. The next morning, he woke up with renewed vigor. He spent the weekend transforming vague ideas into structured plans. Each formula he scribbled represented a part of him, a little piece of his journey into understanding mathematics. When Monday arrived, an electric mix of nerves and excitement coursed through him. As Jamal entered the classroom, there was Dr. Williams, set up at the front, looking every bit the image of encouragement. Are you ready to share your ideas? She asked as he approached. As he opened his mouth to respond, he noticed the supportive faces of his classmates. Jamal straightened his shoulders, channeling the words of Kayla. They believed in him. So maybe it was time to believe in himself too, but just before he could dive in, the classroom doors suddenly swung open, and in walked a group of parents and officials, murmuring lowly among themselves. They weren't scheduled to visit today. The tension in the room became palpable as Jamal realized the impact of their presence. What were they here for? And how would this affect the moment he had been waiting for? He felt a jolt of fear, wondering what implications this could have for his project and for Dr. Williams, who had insight into realms he now wished to conquer. With everything hanging in balance, Jamal took a deep breath, his heart pounding. What was about to happen could change the course of his entire journey. Would this be the moment when dreams soared, or would it be a stumbling block he never anticipated? Jamal's heart raced as he stood frozen in front of Dr. Williams, the weight of the classroom pressing down on him. The chatter of the parents and officials created a backdrop of chaos, pulling his thoughts in all directions. This wasn't just about him anymore. It felt like a stage set for something much larger than a simple classroom presentation. All right, everyone, take a seat, Dr. Williams instructed, her voice rising above the murmurs. We're in the middle of a big moment right now. Jamal's eyes darted to the faces around him. Some parents had curious expressions, others looked skeptical. Was this visit a chance for them to see the new wave of teaching methods? Or were they here to judge? Jamal, Dr. Williams called, breaking through his swirling thoughts, please, share with us what you've been working on. He stepped to the front with hesitant confidence, feeling both crushed under the gaze of the adults and buoyed by the smiles of his friends. He took a deep breath, reminded of Kayla's words. Focus on what you love. Holding his notebook tightly, he began, I've been looking at ways to represent equations visually, to connect math to everyday experiences. I think it could change how we see math. The classroom fell silent, and all he could hear was his heartbeat. He introduced the idea of using graphics to unveil complex concepts, showing how fractions could appear in slices of pizza or how algebra could explain the rhythms of music. As he spoke, his passion burned brighter, igniting an energy in the room. Dr. Williams nodded, clearly impressed. Excellent approach, Jamal. Visual learning can open doors for many students. But just as Jamal felt the room warm to his ideas, a voice interrupted. And how exactly do you plan on making these concepts accessible to those who struggle with math? One of the officials challenged, a skeptical brow raised. The tension in Jamal's chest tightened. Did they doubt him? Did they want to label his ideas as naive? But something in him clicked. Math isn't just numbers and formulas. It's a language everyone can understand. If we show it through everyday objects, we help bridge that gap, he asserted, looking at the official with steadiness. The murmurings quieted, but doubt lingered in the air. Jamal continued, feeling the spark of belief igniting within him once more. What if we created an app where students can visualize these problems in their real life? We could make it engaging, like a game. He saw Kayla nodding vigorously, and that fueled his fervor. In the back of his mind, Jamal recalled all those late nights spent dreaming up this project, the sacrifices he made in the name of understanding. And now, standing here amidst scrutiny, he was ready to show them the very essence of math that had captivated him. Amid the responses of interest from some parents, others still wore uncertain looks. But Jamal pressed on, his voice stronger now, fueled by passion. If you want to inspire students, you have to meet them where they are, show them the significance of math in the world around them. Dr. Williams beamed at him, and for a fleeting moment, he felt invincible. But then, the official broke in again, we'll see how your concepts develop, but we're looking for results. The weight of their expectation crashed over him, but Jamal stood tall. I promise I'll deliver, he said with more confidence than he felt. When he finished, the room erupted in applause from his classmates, but the officials remained stoic. As Jamal slid back into his seat, the tension hadn't entirely left the air. Dr. Williams caught his eye. Great job, Jamal. Let's talk more about how to bring this to life. As the session continued, Jamal couldn't shake the feeling that he had just taken his first step into a much larger world. But with the seed of doubt still growing in the corner of his mind, he realized he hadn't convinced everyone. Far from it. What would it take to truly change their perceptions? What challenges awaited him on this journey? Jamal felt both the weight of expectation and the flickering light of hope. And as he looked around the room filled with faces of encouragement mixed with skepticism, he knew one thing for sure, he was only just getting started. Would he be able to turn this moment into a lasting legacy for himself and his community? The path ahead was murky, but with each passing second, he felt more ready to face it if only he knew how to begin. As Jamal sat in the midst of the classroom buzz, a whirlwind of thoughts swept through his mind. He had presented his vision, pouring out his heart, yet the mixed responses left a haunting echo. Dr. Williams had been supportive, but the uncertainty from the officials loomed. Facing their skepticism wasn't just daunting, it was a challenge that ignited a fire within him. Focus on what you love, he repeated silently, feeling Kayla's reassuring presence nearby. Her unwavering belief and infectious confidence fortified him as they moved together to the library after the session. They made a pact to channel their efforts into crafting the app that could bridge the gap between math and real life, igniting curiosity among students who had felt like math was an insurmountable wall. Days turned into weeks, and they worked tirelessly. Ideas flourished on paper, colorful diagrams, playful sketches of math in everyday scenarios, and stories woven through numbers. Jamal imagined students laughing and learning, connecting with math through pizza slices and concert rhythms. It was transformative, but so much hinged on whether the officials would ever embrace this vision. One crisp Friday morning, Jamal woke up with a mix of excitement and nerves. Today was the day they would present their app prototype to the board, a chance to showcase not just math, but hope, creativity, and community. As he readied himself, thoughts of failure sparked concern, but he pushed them aside, focusing on the journey they had taken. The auditorium was packed with faculty, parents, and student representatives, all eager to witness this innovation. Jamal stood backstage, clenching Kayla's hand. Remember, you're not alone in this, she said softly, her voice steadied by conviction. With a deep breath, they stepped into the spotlight. The projector whirred to life, illuminating their brainstorming sessions, the laughter, the breakthroughs, each idea both raw and nurturing. When it was Jamal's turn, he stood firm, voice resonating with purpose. We created MathCan, an app designed to make math relatable and fun. By connecting numbers to everyday experiences, we're not just teaching math, we're inviting everyone into the conversation. As he shared their interactions, his passion electrified the room. Dr. Williams smiled encouragingly from the audience, her eyes sparkling with pride. Jamal shared stories of their process, the moments where fear turned into laughter, where shared struggles became shared victories. He could see students nodding, parents leaning forward, and educators whispering amongst themselves. The spark he sensed was growing stronger. Yet again, skepticism emerged as one of the officials stood to question. "This sounds wonderful, but can you really gather data, measure its effectiveness?" Jamal felt the weight in his chest, the same pesky doubts swirling. But then he remembered not only the work they had put in but also each hand that had raised in encouragement, each nod reflecting a shared journey. "Yes," he replied, his voice carrying conviction. We designed feedback tools within the app to track engagement and learning outcomes. It's a living program that can adapt and grow with its users. We want to make sure every student feels connected. The applause erupted, and Jamal's heart soared as he realized that this moment was about more than math. It was about hope, resilience, and community. With every presentation, they were painting a mural of unity, challenging norms, confronting boundaries, and inspiring change. Finally, after the presentations, the school board deliberated intensely. Jamal felt every second of the wait. Minutes felt like eternity. Yet, when they returned, their expressions told a different story than before. After careful consideration, the head of the board announced, "We are impressed with the potential of MathCan. We will provide funding for its development and a pilot program in our schools." Cheers erupted in the auditorium, and all at once, tears of joy streamed down Jamal's face. He exchanged a celebratory glance with Kayla, who was beaming with pride. They had not just shared their stories, they had shared hope. As he stepped off that stage, the halls buzzing with excitement and gratitude, Jamal recognized a shift within him. The walls that had once felt so tightly closed began cracking open, a doorway to endless possibilities. With this victory, he saw not just his future but the future of his community transforming through education and empowerment. Jamal's journey had blossomed from merely overcoming personal challenges to igniting a movement that went beyond the classroom. They weren't just tackling math, they were reshaping how they defined success and community support. As he walked through the crowded hallways, students approached him, their voices tinged with excitement and admiration. "You changed how we see math. I want to try using MathCan." Each comment filled him with warmth and depth, a deep-seated realization that this was only the beginning. In that moment, he cherished the lessons learned, the friendships forged, and the resilience discovered. Jamal knew he had a voice worth hearing and a path worth walking, not alone, but side by side with those who shared in his struggle. This was the moment to embrace change, to spur transformation that could reverberate through their lives. As he stepped into the future, he was ready to tackle not just the equations on paper but the equations of life that would come his way. Do you want to be part of this journey? You need to subscribe now. Don't miss the exclusive stories that inspire. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this amazing conclusion, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Together, let us keep creating waves of inspiration.